для Бога співають пісні, як заграють сопілка й цимбали, де на світі я не буду, рідні гори не забуду, як згадаю, серце мріє, Коломиє, Коломиє. А як біла пухнаста зима ніжним килимом гори укрила, як смирічки мороз обійма, завітайте до нас в Коломию, де на світі я не буду, рідні гори не забуду, як згадаю, серце мріє, Коломиє, Коломиє. Завітайте до нас навесні, як каштани заквічані мріють, як злітають над прутом пісні. Завітайте до нас в Коломию, де на світі я не буду, рідні гори не забуду, як згадаю, серце мріє, Коломиє, Коломиє. Може, тут ваше щастя живе, може, стрінете дівчину милу, а як вечір липневий прийде, завітайте до нас в Коломию, де на світі я не буду, рідні гори не забуду, як згадаю, серце мріє, Коломиє, Коломиє. Завітайте до нас восени, коли щедрий врожай ми зібрали, тут для Бога співають пісні, як заграють сопілка й цимбали, де на світі я не буду, рідні гори не забуду, як згадаю, серце мріє, Коломиє, Коломиє. А як біла пухнаста зима ніжним килимом гори укрила, як смирічки мороз обійма, завітайте до нас в Коломию, де на світі я не буду, рідні гори не забуду, як згадаю, серце мріє, Коломиє.
I'm sorry, what were you saying?
I'm trying to see if my voice is making it to the Zoom meeting.
Yes,
we hear you. We would really appreciate if you put yourself on mute. We will start in a couple minutes.
Oh, okay. We'll wait for a couple minutes.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I love the music.
Завітайте до нас навесні, як каштани заквічані мріють, як злітають над прутом пісні. Завітайте до нас в Коломию, де на світі я не буду, рідні гори не забуду, як згадаю, серце мліє, Коломиє, Коломиє. Може, тут ваше щастя живе, може, стрінете дівчину милу, а як вечір липневий прийде, завітайте до нас в Коломию, де на світі я не буду, рідні гори не забуду, як згадаю, серце мріє, Коломиє, Коломиє. Завітайте до нас восени, коли щедрий врожай ми зібрали, тут для Бога співають пісні, як заграють сопілка й цимбали, де на світі я...
Dear friends, we're waiting for more people to join us, and we'll start in literally just 1 or 2 minutes. Thank you so much for joining us. And I would really appreciate if you put yourself on mute.
А як біла пухнаста зима, ніжним килимом гори укрила, як смирічки мороз обійма. Завітайте до нас в Коломию, де на світі я не буду, рідні гори не забуду, як згадаю, серце мліє, Коломиє, Коломиє. Завітайте до нас на
All right, friends, thank you so much for joining us. I see there are almost 30 people right now on the call, and people are joining us. Really appreciate your time. Thank you for finding, allocating time today in the morning of Saturday to be with us. So let me just take a moment and and introduce to you our online travelogues before I introduce to you Alicia Szendiuch, our finalist, who is going to present Kolomyia today. So these online travelogues about 6 cities, 6 towns in Ukraine is launched in partnership with the Embassy of Ukraine to the United States of America, with the support from Professional Government Association, US-Ukraine Business Council, and with the help from Boston Friends of UGS. So Tania Vitvitsky, Alicia Szendiuch, Chrystia and Slywotzky, Yarema Wolosenko, Zina Kondratiuk should be here today on call. Thank you so much for helping us organizing the series. So there are actually 3 reasons why we decided to launch the travelogues. The reason number 1 is that we wanted to show you Ukraine as it is right now, modern Ukraine, through the eyes of our bright, talented, and patriotic students from Ukraine who are now studying at the world's best boarding schools and colleges and on full rights. So the students are amazing, and we really want you to see their perspective of their own city, of their own towns. Reason number 2 is that we wanted to show you, and actually the focus is on the towns not widely known or visited, outside Ukraine. So especially those based in the eastern part of Ukraine. And we really hope that by showing this series of this travelogue will attract attention to these cities, and hopefully one day you guys, your friends will come to Ukraine and visit those towns. And reason number 3 is that, well, we truly believe that in order to deter Russian aggression, and it's not a surprise for anyone here on the call, we need to be strong and united as a nation. And one of the ways to show the strength is actually to show Ukraine by Ukrainians, to show Ukraine as it is from the Ukrainian perspective, from the people who were actually raised and born there. So although these travelogues, they are not political, but rather cultural, we anyway believe that everyone who is here today on call will find something interesting for himself or herself. And hopefully, again, as I mentioned before, will take time and travel to Ukraine one day and to see the perspective, to see Ukraine as it is from his or her perspective, based on what we've shown you today. So feel free to write down the nice tips that Alexei will provide you about Kolomyia. So once you are there, you know where to go, what to visit, and which cafeteria actually to drink a coffee at. And I also wanted to mention that our students are going to show, to present their towns from their routine Friday and Saturday schedule as well, people who actually live there. Right now, all I want to say is just enjoy the travelogue and welcome to Ukraine. Let me introduce to you Alexei Antoniuk, who is Ukraine Global Scholars Finalist 2019. He is now sophomore at Yale College, based in Connecticut. And he is also the president of the Ukrainian House at Yale. Alexei, the floor is all yours. You have 30 minutes to present the wonderful town of Kolomyia. And then you guys, please raise any questions that you have, and Alexei will answer them. Floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Julia, for such a kind introduction. Before proceeding to the presentation and introducing myself fully, how I lived in Kolomyia, I'd like to take a minute to discuss the importance, to second Julie's opinion about the importance of such presentations for the current situation in Ukraine. Is that even when we are presenting Kolomyia in Pisankas, we are presenting how museums in Kolomyia look like, it is very important to keep in mind what was going on around Ukraine, and to view these presentations as an opportunity to learn about Ukraine and what is there to protect. Because many times people living in America, they forget that a country has more than something like the deterrence of Russia, that Ukraine has its unique features that are worthwhile protecting. And I hope that this presentation and the next presentations would show all these unique features and further convince the American public of the importance of preserving all this uniqueness. So a bit about myself before beginning the presentation. My name is Alexei Antoniuk. I am, as Julia said, a sophomore at Yale College. I study global affairs, focusing on international security. I am a Ukraine Global Scholars 2019 finalist, and I'm right now a mentor. I am also the president of the Ukrainian House at Yale. And I born and grew up in Kolomyia. I lived there my entire life, went to Kolomyia in high school. Every day, mostly spend my days in Kolomyia. So I hope that my perspective would be interesting for you. So, where is Kolomyia? Kolomyia is located near the Carpathian Mountains. It's people even say this is Ukraine used to be the gate through the Carpathians. That whenever people would go to Bukovel, Kharkiv, Yaremchi, all of these Carpathian tourist sites, they would first come to Kolomyia. It still is. It's a very important transportation point and practically a gate to the mountains. However, the Kolomyia itself is not located in the mountains. It's located on the plain, but you can always see the mountains on the horizon. They're very beautiful blue mountains, as was said in the music played just a few minutes ago. Kolomyia is quite a small city. It is 60,000 people. However, when you go there, you would feel that this city has an energy of a huge metropolitan area because of the incredibly vibrant culture. So let's imagine my Friday and Saturday schedule, and that we will be going together with you through Kolomyia and having our daily lives. Of course, this Friday and Saturday schedule is not very realistic, given that it has like many of the events in it, and however, they all represent what the type of events Kolomyian people would attend and what type of events I was attending. So we have a bit of glimpse into my life, and through my life, I hope you'll be able to see how Kolomyia really feels like. So we start with Friday, you go to a school, then have a coffee chat with a friend, then you're gonna have the Art Vision Festival and Kolomyian 10th Military Brigade. Then you're gonna have a club, you're gonna go to Troya. Then on Saturday you're gonna have lunch with friends. Then you're gonna have a debate union meeting. Then you're gonna listen to mayor giving a speech with the opening of Kolomyia's largest festival. Then you're gonna have the festival itself, Drive for Life Festival. So let's start. And also, if you have any questions, please free to raise your hand or to ask in the chat. I'll always be willing to answer them. So you go to school. Kolomyia has quite dynamic education environment. It's quite strong. We have 11 schools and also medium level in Ivano-Frankivsk region. We have extremely lively school competition. So on the left side, you can see Kolomyia Gymnasium. This is the school where I went to, studied 9 years. This is a very, very old Austro-Hungarian building that used actually to be a monastery, a women's monastery. However, now it is a school. And then there is Kolomyia Lyceum on the right. There's also the old building, like most of schools in Kolomyia. And they have very lively competition. This shows a lot about how dynamic and an active education environment in Kolomyia is. And this competition is so funny. Is whenever the principal of Kolomyia Lyceum goes to a certain conference or a certain number of Lyceum students win school Olympiads, then the Kolomyia Gymnasium principal is doing the same thing, is going to the same conference, is doing the same Olympiads. This is just extreme sort of, you can put it even Cold War. Right now, Kolomyia Lyceum, unfortunately to me as a student of Kolomyia Gymnasium, Kolomyia Lyceum is becoming a winner, but at the same time, it contributed enormously to the development of education in this city. And given the cultural importance of Kolomyia, education is integral to preserving all the uniqueness. So after going to the school, we go for a coffee chat with our friends. And Kolomyian coffee chats, they're all local. We do not have any non-local coffee chats, coffee shops. There was one time that Aroma Kava, the Ukrainian coffee chain, decided to enter Kolomyia. They failed because they couldn't stand competition to local coffee shops. And these local coffee shops, they add certain feeling of it's like when you go to European capitals or to Lviv, you have these small underground coffee shops where this place is not just about drinking coffee. But this place becomes a center of the civil life. This is where the intelligentsia gathers, and that's where you have events, where you have art exhibitions. So it's extremely comfy European-style small coffee shops, and there are so many of them around the city. My favorite one is Bukinist. It is depicted on the left. Extremely comfy. There are a lot of books to read. Incredible atmosphere, incredible people, and as to the price of coffee, it's around $2. So you have both very good coffee and cheap. So you should definitely visit Kolomyia just to try coffee. Then Kolomyia is also famous for its 10th Mountain Assault Brigade. It's also called Edelweiss, named after Edelweiss is the type of plant, the type of flower that is growing in the mountains. And Edelweiss and the 10th Mountain Assault Brigade has Edelweiss as its second name. And it's based in Kolomyia. This is the youngest brigade in the Ukrainian army, but it is one of the most important ones. And this 10th Mountain Assault Brigade is actually quite important in the life of Kolomyia. That is why in the schedule they opened the Art Vision Festival, which I'm going to talk about in the next slide. And the 10th Mountain Assault Brigade fought near Avdiivka, Popasna, Hirske, Donetsk, Mariupol, liberated Katerynivka, Novoalexandrivka. And the 10th Mountain Assault Brigade became such an important part of Kolomyian and Ukrainian culture at this point that there is even a song dedicated by the Cossack system to the 10th Mountain Assault Brigade. And let me present it. These are their headquarters in Kolomyia.
У нас були гори, у нас були крила, літати би, але війною накрило. Ти бачиш, тримаючи небо, у серці спускаються з гір Едельвейси. Як свічки у церкві, палаючі хати, розтрощені долі, волають про плату. Ми тих, хто наш світ прирікає до страти, йдемо штурмувати. Подай зброю мені, брате, зачекай, люба, зачекай, мати. Хлопці Едельвейси йдуть, з ворога плату брати. Ми вчили війну по запеклим законам, ми назви як горам дали териконам. І смерть недолуга розплющила з льоту косу об сталеву піхоту. Якщо хто поляже, не плачте, не треба, ми сходимо, наче у гори на небо. Проте бережемо життя і набої, йдемо до бою. Подай зброю мені, брате, зачекай, люба, зачекай, мати. Хлопці Едельвейси йдуть, з ворога плату брати. Подай зброю мені, брате, зачекай, люба, зачекай, мати. Хлопці
And Ukrainian and Kolomyia, people of Kolomyia are extremely proud to host the 10th Mountain Assault Brigade in their city. And they very often organize parades, open festivals, open various important celebrations. And they became a really integral part of what Kolomyia right now is and what impact it has on Ukraine as a whole. So now let's get to the Art Vision Festival itself. So after the 10th Mountain Brigade opened, now we have Art Vision Festival. And Kolomyia is very notorious for the various festivals it has. There are always, like, starting from Art Vision Festival, which is about poetry reading, different kinds of music, alive sculptures, fire shows, stand-ups, theater plays, masquerades, modern traditional exhibitions, speaker events. This all encompasses the Art Vision Festival, and you can see some pictures from there. But Kolomyian festivals are not limited to that. And I don't think that the time devoted to this presentation we would ever be able to encapsulate the very, very many festivals that Kolomyia has. Youth art festivals, Hutzul culture, beekeeper, small aviation, ethnographic, theater, ecology. The number of festivals that Kolomyia holds is practically unlimited, and there's always a festival in every month, because we believe in Kolomyia that life is too boring without festivals. As a huge cultural center, we just cannot be without these festivals. And so whenever you come to Kolomyia any month, you'll most likely end up in one of those festivals, and you'll be able to perceive some of the very unique culture where you just cannot find in any other place in the world, and in Ukraine too. And the very important part of Kolomyian cultural scene is that Kolomyia is the capital of Husulshina and art craft. Husulshina is the historic region which is situated near the Carpathian Mountains. And this Husulshina region is notorious for its wooden work, for its pisanka, Easter eggs. And Ukraine is the capital of Eastern egg craft. And we have this huge pisanka where you can enter yourself. And inside of it is a museum of Eastern egg art craft. And this Eastern egg art craft, all of these symbols and patterns, they each have their own, they represent something, they symbolize something unique. And every region has its own traditions. So a skilled worker will be able to say that, for instance, these pisankas come from like this region, this pisankas come from that region. And it's extremely careful work, intricate, because you need to do all of these small details. But the result, as for me, is incredible. It's extremely beautiful art craft. And these specific Easter eggs, they come from the Hutzul region. This is the traditional colors of Husulshina, which is brown, white, and a bit of green. Kolomyia also has some religious art, as for instance, in these, to the right, we have the cathedral, the Kolomyian cathedral. Is very new, is built, I think, in the 2000s. But it is the biggest church in Kolomyia. Now let me present you the Museum of Husulshina, so you can see all the various artwork for yourself. The National Museum of People's Art of Husulshina in Kolomyia. Established in 1926, very old Austro-Hungarian building. It was established in the previous house, the people's house, and this is the first Ukrainian museum in Halichina, and a very important part of Ukrainian cultural legacy. There's 50,000 pieces of people's art. The big part of Hutzul culture is connected with wooden artwork. There was decorating the house. It has also ceramics, dating from the 18th century. It has a huge open. It's a very important part of Hutzul interior. And a lot of church and religious exponents, and also a lot of very important part is wooden exponents, and they encompass extremely various things. There are also leather that is being ornamented by metal. These are the traditional Hutzul outfits. This is how Hutzul people were living and how their rooms would look like. It's in the past, now people don't live like that, but still the cultural legacy remains. All of the beautiful artwork still Hutzul they really like decorating their houses, and their they really like decorating their houses, and Hutzul people really like decorating their houses and making their ornaments especially gorgeous. And this is Andrei Tchaikovsky, a very important political actor in Kolomyia. Kolomyia was also the center of printing in Galicia, the second center after Lviv. So we had the periodical called Slovo, the word, published in Kolomyia. And Kolomyia since it is the capital of Hutzulshina, it has the biggest Hutzul museum, the one you can see right now. So after visiting the art festival and having some cultural enrichment, Hutzuls love having fun. And so first of all, how people have fun in Kolomyia. It's a very important part of every city. We cannot skip that, especially when we're talking about Hutzuls. They enjoy having fun. So first of all, it's clubs, it's nightclubs, very important part of cities' entertainment landscape. A lot of people go to a nightclub called Troya. People also love drinking medovukha. This is pretty much vodka based on honey. There are a lot of concerts, rock music, folk music. There is also always street music. When you go around the city, you can always hear people playing saxophone, guitar, and it really resembles the atmosphere you can witness when you go around such cities as Lviv or Amsterdam or Berlin. People are singing on the street, and it contributes enormously to the feeling of the cultural importance in the city. Kolomyia also has its own genre of songs, entire genre is called after Kolomyia. It's called Kolomyia. These songs are very active, dynamic, and often have some humorous context. And let me present one of them.
жонаті, а я не женюся. Усі хлопці вже жонаті, а я не женюся. Їсти я собі зварю, пораю скотинку, сам корову подаю. Нащо ж мені жінка? Піду ляжу під копицю, на зірки дивлюся. Усі хлопці вже жонаті, а я не женюся. Усі хлопці вже жонаті, а я не женюся.
This song tells about one guy who doesn't want to get married, and he finds all the various excuses to not get married. How he can take care of the cow himself, how everyone is marrying but he doesn't want to, how he's happy resting after work and he's by his own. So, and a lot of most of these Kolomyia songs, they have this humorous and some humorous context, and it is why it shows the dynamic and lively nature of the Husul culture, which love joking, they love having fun. And a very important part also of Kolomyia and Husul music is cymbala and trombita. You can see cymbala on the left, and you'll be able to hear some of the cymbala in the next slide. And also trombita. This is the longest music instrument in the world. It's 2.5 meters long. You can see it on the right. It's very difficult to produce sound out of it. I'll tell you that even I, who lived in Kolomyia and was like supposed to be like a Husul, supposed to be able to produce sound from it, was extremely, extremely difficult. And people take a long time to train their lungs to produce that much power. But the sound is of enormous strength. And whenever you go to places called Polonina is essentially, you have like mountains, but some mountains are extremely steep. And especially at the top, they're quite flat. And such places in Carpathians called Polonina. This is where, for instance, sheep graze, cows. So when you go to Polonina and then you use the trombita, then the sound echoes through the mountains and is extremely beautiful. And you should. This is impossible to transmit through words. You should definitely go to Kolomyia to see for yourself how it looks like. Okay, now we'll see the traditional Husul dance called Arkan. This Husul dance is very often most of Husul dances, they are made in circles and by entire group of people, by synchronous dancing. And they often may entail some of the acrobatic elements, like this. Okay, so we had our Friday. On Friday, I will remind you, I went to school, then we had a coffee chat, and afterwards we had the 10th Military Brigade parade for the opening of the art Vision Festival, then we had the Art Vision Festival itself, and then we had some fun. So now it's Saturday, and what do we have on our agenda? First lunch with our friends, then we go to debate union meeting, then the mayor would give a speech before the opening of the Drive for Life Festival, and then the Drive for Life Festival itself, probably the biggest and the most well-known festival that is made in Kolomyia. So lunch, and we finally got a food. So what is, and Kolomyia and Hutsul region has its own cuisine that is not by any means close to what the rest of Ukraine or the rest of the world is doing, because it developed in the mountains in isolation. So it managed to preserve a lot of uniqueness it has. And so what do they do? The traditional food. There's banosh with shkwarki, it's pork rind, and brinza cheese. Some people say that banosh is close to like something like kulasha. However, it's not, because banosh is based on milk. And in my opinion, banosh is actually tasty, unlike kulasha. There is also pork in a jug, and penny bun soup. And all of these things are, for instance, the jug part of it is that Hutsul region was also notorious for its ceramics. So it combined its artwork and skills in ceramics to produce better food, such as pork in a jug. And also, given that there are always mushrooms, so many mushrooms in the Carpathian Mountains, penny bun soup was also extremely widespread over the Carpathians and the Hutsul culture. However, Kolomyia is not only about traditional food. Kolomyia is a quite advanced contemporary city, and there is always a balance of traditional and contemporary. But right now, the trend is, of course, goes to the more modern ones. And Kolomyia, you can, besides banosh and pork in a jug and penny bun soup, you can find such things as black burgers, sushi, pizza, and right now there is a recent trend of opening restaurants with sushi and pizza more and more. So Kolomyia combines a lot of traditional culture while also becoming a modern advanced city. And this is the beauty of Kolomyia, that Kolomyia managed to preserve both its traditional and advanced and modern culture. So it's extremely lively and dynamic city. And we can see in the next slide how dynamic it is. Because when we go to the debate union meeting, Kolomyia, we see how Kolomyia is a youth-driven town. That Kolomyia has around 1 out of 60,000 inhabitants, 20,000 are youth. It's extremely youthful, and it provides its own dynamism. And high school students from Ukraine are one of the most, high school students from Kolomyia are one of the most represented among national social activism competitions. First of all, a Future Leaders Exchange. This is the program that is sponsored by the State Department, through which high school students from Ukraine go to America for a year abroad. I went there myself. I lived there for a year in Texas. It was a very interesting experience. And the interesting part about Kolomyia is that in 1 year, we had Kolomyia, 60,000 people, had as many flags participants as Kharkiv. And I remind you that Kharkiv has more than 1 million people. And this is to such an extent, Kolomyia has a youth-driven dynamic town. And we have many youth organizations: debate, ecology, civil society, youth council, volunteering, auto activism, comedy clubs, class, theater, like anything could ever imagine. I was mostly going to the debate union. I really loved participating in it. And we can see on the slides to the left and to the right, this is one of the debate union meetings. On the left, this is the debate union meeting in a youth organization called Space Hub. And on the right, we were hosting the first national tournament, debate tournament in Kolomyia, and we are in this picture in the Kolomyian City Council. And they use the dynamicism of the Kolomyia. It's been traditional like that. Older students set example for younger ones and show by their involvement how younger ones can get involved too. And then the younger ones take over and then teach even younger ones. So it contributes to the city where it's developing. It's not just staying in one place. It's actually youth-driven, and you see this dynamism everywhere. So after going to the debate union meeting, then we are moving to the Drive for Life Festival. And traditionally, Drive for Life Festival is opened by the mayor of the city, and he gives a speech. And what does he talk about? He appeals to long Kolomyian history and says that actually Kolomyia should have been the oblast capital, not Ivano-Frankivsk. And why he says so? Because Kolomyian history is extremely long and deep. First, Kolomyia, the first mention of Kolomyia was in 1240. 1240, Kolomyia was first mentioned. It was established before that. So can you imagine, like this is like 800 years the city existed. And we can see on the pictures some of the resemblance of modern Kolomyia to its past. On the left, we see the town hall. And it's right now preserved mostly in the same state. And to the right, we can see the gymnasium the school went to and how it's been looking in the past and how it looks right now. So most of the things were actually preserved. And Kolomyia was an important economic and cultural center in its history. It's been one of the biggest salt producers in the Polish kingdom. It has been the historically second most culturally important and economically important city in Halishina after Lviv. Kolomyia had a railroad already in the 16th century, right after Lviv. And most of the city center right now is preserved from the 18th and 19th century, from Austro-Hungary. And Kolomyia had a huge influence on cultural influence on Ukraine. We hosted such cultural organizations as the first Halishina Theater. First, we hosted Ruska Rada, printing press, newspaper, gymnasiums, pottery schools, woodwork schools. We had our own branches of Prosvita. Ivan Franko was arrested here and was imprisoned in Kolomyia. So Kolomyia holds a crucial part in the Ukrainian culture, in Ukrainian history. And that is why so many Kolomyians are actually extremely proud of Kolomyia. There are Kolomyian people, they share extremely strong sense of patriotism towards Kolomyia. And because of such a history, and it's you can still feel this honor, this pride, you can still feel when you talk to Kolomyian people. And I myself, I share this pride in my city's long history. So after the mayor gives a speech and talks about the history of Kolomyia and why it should be the oblast center, not Ivano-Frankivsk, then we have the Drive for Life Festival itself. So what is the Drive for Life Festival? It is one of the biggest vehicles festivals in Ukraine. So Kolomyia is not only like an art center, it's also a center of sort of a different type of art, of the vehicles, of cars, motorcycles, aviations, balloons, and anything that moves people. This is the festival about that. There are competitions between car racing, aviation competition, balloons, and all of that. And then we have large rock and electronic music concerts with top Ukrainian international bands and festivities around the city. So Kolomyia is also a very modern town. And let me show you very briefly the video about Drive for Life Festival. Kolomyia also shares a lot of modern and traditional things. And to the end of the presentation, let me discuss demolition derby and music. And Kolomyia love having fun in all the different ways. And so let me at the end show you the Kolomyia
out every night and I'm lonely as fuck.
Kolomyia from the top. So my impression of Kolomyia is that it preserves a lot of traditional things. There's also a lot of its unique cultural culture, its artwork, its attitudes in its culture. However, it also, in addition to preserving these traditional parts of the coastal region, Kolomyia is also a modern city that is youth-driven, that is lively, that manages to combine the modernities, the traditionality. And I think this is probably the most important part about Kolomyia, that it found a possibility to do it. Few cities manage to do it. They either take the modern parts and leave out the traditional, or they never move to modern parts, staying in the traditional. While Kolomyia managed to do that. And I think a big part of it is the youth-driven city. And the youth, the educational part of Kolomyia, and then a huge cultural importance and the prioritization of culture and art festivals in Kolomyia feeling. So you should definitely visit Kolomyia when you can and walk through this beautiful Austro-Hungarian Soviet, and walk through this beautiful Austro-Hungarian city center, and see how it feels for you. So thank you so much, and visit me in Kolomyia.
Huge thank you, Alexei. That was an amazing presentation. I just buying ticket and I really want to go there as soon as possible. Look, I would really appreciate if you just share your details maybe in the chat box, so that, you know, if some of our guests decide to actually come to Kolomyia, they know who to contact. Maybe you just provide your email. And dear friends, do you have any questions at all about Kolomyia or Ukraine that you would like to raise right now? You can just raise your hand maybe, or just write down your questions in the text box. And we really hope that you are interested in actually visiting this amazing, as Alexei mentioned, youth-driven city one day. I don't see any questions in the text box, but feel free to raise your hand and just, you know, speak up and ask a question if you'd like. Yes, Bruce? You can just unmute yourself and ask the question. Unmute yourself. You need to unmute yourself. We do not hear you, Bruce. You need to unmute yourself.
Okay. Hello, I'm Bruce Dwyer. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I had some questions I sent in earlier by email. Have you gotten them, or shall I ask them?
Yeah, but there are like more than 5 of them. So would you please pick one maybe and just raise a question?
You pick every one you want, which anyone you want.
All right. So I think one of the questions that you raised in your email was, maybe we can, okay, so Alexei, question to you is, are older people generally respected in your country, well, right now we're talking about Kolomyia, so are older people actually respected in Kolomyia or mostly dismissed because they are out of date?
I would say that because Kolomyia manages to combine the traditional with the modern, there is respect for everyone, for the younger generation, for the older generation. And they coexist, they respect each other, younger generation learns from the older one, and it does pay due respects. In this way, the Ukrainian and Kolomyian culture, they are the same, because in both Kolomyia and in Ukraine, it's very important to value older people and the respect for the wisdom they can give.
All right, thank you. There's one more question from Bruce. That one was a quite short one, so we have more time for another question. And is America still respected within the people of your country, or are we generally not thought of at all?
Well, Americans cannot be thought of at all. This is in the entire world. Probably everyone cares about Americans. Whether they are respected, I will say yes. They're mostly respected. Of course, there are some parts of the real part of the history between Ukraine and America that may produce some resentment. But I think that a few last months of increasing American military aid and support during the difficult, challenging times of having 200,000 troops on the border, I think this American support, it really pushed Ukrainian public opinion much more to the side of America. And frankly, Ukrainians has always been supportive of entering NATO and EU, especially since 2014. According to the last sociological survey, 68% of Ukrainians support entrance to NATO and EU, and only 10% oppose. Ukrainians are fully on the side of America. They use support, and they view America as an example of how a good country could be.
I think a very good indication of this is also how many Ukrainian students from Kolomyia actually apply to participate in future leaders exchange program, culture program, like exchange program between Ukraine and America. And I don't know if you guys actually heard this, but that's a very important message. So how many students again participate from Kolomyia in flex and actually move to America?
On average, I would say 4 or 5 people per year.
4 or 5 people per year, but you need to explain the scope and compare.
Yeah, so 4 or 5 people per year.
Kolomyia.
So for instance, Kharkiv also has around 5 people per year. And Kolomyia has 4 or 5 people. And we usually the same level as Kharkiv. This is to that extent Kolomyia
right, and the population of Kolomyia, just reiterate.
60,000 people.
60,000 people, and population of Kharkiv is around 1 million. So, and there's the same representation of, Kolomyia in the future leader exchange program in America than, youth from Kharkiv. So I think that's a very good indication that actually America is well respected among youth, and young people really want to come here and learn more from American people.
Yes, I would also add on that we in Kolomyia, not right now, but like before the COVID, we had always 3-4 American Peace Corps volunteers, which for a city of 60,000 people is also quite an achievement, because Kolomyia NGOs, they love hosting these volunteers, and there are enough people. There are enough people that are ready to provide living and accommodation to Peace Corps volunteers for entire 2 years. That is, to such an extent, Kolomyians are welcome of Americans and Europeans.
Alexei, there's one more question from Pak Espinola. Was there ever a Jewish community in Kolomyia, and is there such a community there now?
Kolomyia was actually one of the centers of Jewish community in Galicia. So what do we have from? There are not that big Jewish community at this point. However, in the past, there are a lot of Jewish pilgrims coming to Kolomyia. I am not sure from what type of Jewish pilgrimage it is, but I know that in Kolomyia we have a huge Jewish cemetery, And there are a few important rabbis buried there. So we'd imagine that the pilgrimage is about visiting and paying dues to those rabbis. This is the important part. Also, Kolomyia was also it was an old Austro-Hungarian city, and in practically all Austro-Hungarian cities, Jews were like around a third of every city population. So it's quite natural that Kolomyia has some Jewish imprint.
Yeah, that's right, Alexei. And I also want to make sure to say to Peg Espinola that please actually come to our online travelogue also about Dnipro. I see Carolina Knighton here, our UGS finalist, who is going to present Dnipro city, and she'll talk about Jewish community in Dnipro. I think you'll be interested in learning more about it. And also one more question from Bruce again, right? So are the youth active in the Ukrainian military?
Yes, Kolomyia is also quite strong in its participation in the military, mostly because of the 10th Military Brigade. A lot of Kolomyian youth ends up signing contracts with the 10th Military Brigade because it has such a strong influence on the Kolomyian people. Also, there are, I'm not talking about military as such, but there are patriotic organizations such as Plast. However, in Kolomyia, there are not that many active organizations such as the Pravy sector, the right sector. They're mostly active in Ivano-Frankivsk as the oblast capital. But in Kolomyia, people share the patriotism. And right now, and whenever you go to Kolomyian coffee shops and you just hear people's conversations, they really don't like what is going on right now at the border, and because they believe that Kolomyia and the Ukraine should be part of Europe, and Kolomyia has been the part of Europe before 1939, and it's only for how many years? It's like since 1939 to 1990, like 50 years. 50 years Kolomyia not been in Europe, been in the Soviet Union. Before that, it was part of the European community. So Kolomyians, they believe that they are Europeans, and this is the European city.
Thank you, Alexei. And I think there was a question from Dora Khomyak. Did you raise your hand, Dora? Okay, I'm not sure. I think, okay. All right. Okay, so now, does anyone else have any questions? I think we should wrap up, just not to take more of your time. I think 1 hour is what we've announced as a travelogue. If anyone has the last question, thank you so much, Dora, for sharing this, that you like the tour. We really appreciate it. And dear friends, I would really, really like you to share and to spread the word about this travelogue. So Kolomyia is the travelogue #1. We have more of them. We have Dnipro, we have New York in Donetsk oblast, we have Chernihiv, we have Simferopol in Crimea, we have Kharkiv. And we really want you guys to actually attend these travelogues. We also want you to spread the word among your American, European, international friends. We really want to raise awareness about Ukraine, about its beauty, about how strong it is, about notwithstanding where our students actually based in Ukraine, they all are so patriotic, they love it, and they're happy to, share the information about the modern towns they live right now in. And, I really appreciate, thank you so much, Alexei, for this fascinating presentation. There was lots of music and videos, and you explained it all as you went through the presentation. And that's so amazing to have you here at Yale, coming from Kolomyia, at the same time being so patriotic, running Ukraine House at Yale, and also actually running lots of Ukrainian-focused events at Yale, and participating in so many things, and being an active member of the Ukrainian community. And it doesn't matter where you are, in the United States, in Ukraine, or anywhere else. I have such a trust in you, and really appreciate for this presentation. So friends, please just spread the word. I really hope that the number of participants, during this travelogues will increase with every next travelogue by the end, by the time we finish in April. And all I want to say, let us be united as a nation, and let us be strong, and let's share the right and the true messages out there in the world from Ukraine. Thank you so much, friends. Have a wonderful day. And again, just, tune into for other travelogues happening in 2 weeks. Have a wonderful day and stay in touch. Alexei, thank you again.
And thank you so much for coming.